south of the border. Rosemary Smith is a rally driver from Dublin. Her father taught her to drive at the age of 11 in a field in Tallaght. Leaving school at 15, Rosemary trained as a dress designer and model and opened a dressmaking company. Rosemary was asked to navigate for a friend in a rally but soon took over the driving. Rosemary was the first and only woman driver to win the Tulip Rally outright, beating all the male drivers to the finish. In the following extract from her book, Driven, she recalls the epic 1970 World Cup London to Mexico rally. Rosemary is passionate about road safety and opened the Rosemary Smith School of Motoring in 1999, where she teaches young people to drive. In 2017, at 80 years of age, she became the oldest person to drive a Renault Sports Formula One team car. The London to Sydney Marathon was a success because I finished when 42 other competitors had fallen by the wayside. It was well known in the industry that I had overcome many obstacles along the way. No doubt it was because of this that British Leyland got the notion that I was a good bet for the mammoth 1970 World Cup London to Mexico rally. Yet again, I was being used for publicity purposes. British Leyland needed all the exposure it could get because the Austin Maxi was a new car on the market. I do not think they really cared if I got there or not, as long as I flashed my legs and looked pretty. We posed before the orange and white candy-stripped Austin in full-length white coats and white leather boots. The outfits were amazing, but totally impractical for rallying. Our rally outfits were a blue jacket and red trousers. Alice Watson and Jeanette de Roland were my co-drivers. The team had done everything they could to make the car, which was a new and untried model, ready for the long trip. Nobody could know how the Maxi would respond to the long drive, or if it would get beyond Lisbon. Alice, Jeanette and I climbed into our orange and white striped Austin Maxi on the 19th of April 1970. We knew that the epic drive to Mexico would end on the 22nd of May, if we managed to get that far. Our Maxi was 1475cc, much smaller than the rest of the team. They had cars with 1800cc engines. At the beginning, 98 cars from 22 countries started out from Wembley. Minis and Fords from Britain, Moskoviches from Russia, a Toyota from Japan, a beach buggy, a Wagoneer Jeep from the US, United States, and even 2 Rolls Royces. The course covered over 16,000 miles, 25,700 kilometers, 5,000 miles through Europe and the rest through South America and Central America. The drive through Europe was not difficult, but the dust and roads in Yugoslavia were challenging. During the 7 days of the European leg, there was only one scheduled overnight stop in Monza, Italy. We took it in turns to sleep. By the time we reached Lisbon, only 71 cars were left out of the 96 starters. We had to fly from Lisbon Airport to Rio de Janeiro. The media were all over us when we got there. As I stepped into the hotel swimming pool in my white bikini, the flashbulbs were popping. No doubt that was what British Leyland was hoping for. I didn't let them down. On Friday, the 8th of May, at the start of our journey through Brazil, we departed Rio to a flag-waving crowd, loud music and excited pressmen. BMCS, British Motor Company's competition manager, was concerned about the floods forecast. When the rain came, we had to contend with hailstones the size of golf balls crashing down on us. Some of the drivers pulled over and took shelter under the trees. I saw no need for that and just kept going. Crossing the narrow wooden bridges, which appeared out of nowhere, was challenging. There was no other way around. After 40 hours of non-stop driving, we reached Montediveo. We were one of only 52 cars that had got that far. After a much-needed night's sleep, we boarded a car ferry for the 3-hour journey across the River Plate to Buenos Aires. We drove through the amazing landscape of Central America with barely time to register what was around us. With my dress designing hat on, I could not miss the women. Their clothes were like nothing I had ever seen before. Everywhere in the mountains, you would see them in beautiful garments of vibrant red, orange, blue, and green. They always wore hats, wonderful, wide-brimmed hats. There were only 2 things that went wrong with the car: the cassette player and the fan belt. On a very bumpy road, the cassette player started of its own accord, and suddenly Elvis was singing All Shook Up. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Alice managed to turn him off before I got too excited. But that was only a minor thing. The fan belt was a little more serious. When I saw the temperature gauge going up and up, I knew we were in trouble. We stopped at the top of the mountain and waited for someone to come along. As luck would have it, Tony Fall, who was driving a Ford Escort, came to our rescue. Jimmy Greaves was his co-driver and was really only there for publicity purposes. As it turned out, he was a very good driver, as well as a footballer. Tony Fall put the fan belt on and we were ready to go. We looked around for Alice, but she was nowhere to be seen. When we found her, she looked like a little green shrub. She was covered in cactus flies bigger than grasshoppers. They were sucking her arms, face, and any bit of skin that was exposed. We tried to hit them off, but they must have liked her Scottish blood and would not move. The only thing I could think of was to take the fire extinguisher and spray her all over. I was told afterwards they could have given her awful burns, but it worked. The horrible insects fell off and we got her into the car and drove off. As the day wore on, Alice blew up like a balloon and was covered in what looked like a very bad case of measles. When we got to the control stop, I had to cut off her clothes, her watch, and everything. We fed her glucose drinks just to keep her going. When we arrived at La Paz, I knew we had to get her to hospital because she was drifting in and out of consciousness. The stewards at the top of the mountain were insisting that I couldn't go down as it was past midnight. It was a very narrow pass, with cliffs on one side and a deep drop on the other. We were told that trucks were due to be coming up during the night. I crashed a barrier that the stewards had put across the road. I was sure Alice would die if we did not get help for her. Halfway down the pass, we could see trucks approaching. Jeanette put her foot on the horn and kept it there. Someone must have telephoned and said some mad women are coming down the mountain. Keep out of their way. I didn't care if the car was damaged. I just wanted to get Alice to the hospital. We had an overnight in La Paz. Jeanette and I resigned ourselves to the fact that it was the end for us and the rally. If you started with a team of 3, all of you had to finish. That was the rule. Later the next day, there was a knock on the door. There she was, with her feet barely touching the ground, as two male nurses held her up. Alice knew if she didn't come with us, we were out of the running. Alice still wasn't well, but at least we had medication for her and an assurance from the doctor that she would recover. And so we left La Paz on Sunday, 17th of May, en route to Lima in Peru. The going was rough. 9 of the 39 cars that left La Paz never made it to Lima. 26 cars got as far as the port at Buenaventura to board the MS Verdi for the 2-day trip to Central America. We sailed the Pacific coast of Colombia and then through the Panama Canal on the 23rd of May. At the border between Costa Rica and Nicaragua, the National Cleansing Department sprayed all the cars with disinfectant. We were well and truly fumigated. The smell in the car was awful. In the early hours of the morning, dark except for our headlights glaring, we came around a bend to find huge rocks blocking our way. Half joking, I said to Alice and Jeanette, "You had better get out and move them out of the way." That was when we heard the sound of horses' hooves. 5 men on horseback galloped towards us with big sombreros and handkerchiefs tied around their faces. When they realized we were women, they started to question us. "What are you doing?" We explained we were on a rally. "Where are you going?" "Mexico City," we told them. "What have you got in the car?" We told them nothing but a few clothes. Then they proceeded to lecture us, telling us that we should not be out in the middle of the night, how very dangerous it was. They cautioned us to be careful. They acted like true gentlemen, rolled the rocks out of the way and left us to it. We went on. The long hours of driving were starting to take their toll on me. "How much longer, Alice?" I asked. "Soon, soon," she said, looking at the road book, and just then we came over the brow of the hill. All the lights were spread out below us. It was 14, a night halt 300 miles from Mexico City. We had made it to the last checkpoint. There were 98 contestants in all, and only 23 arrived at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico. 5 female crews left Wembley that day. 2 made it to the finish. We were one of them, gaining 10th place overall and beating 11 other all-male teams. The cars were washed and polished. We had a police escort to the stadium. Suddenly the rain came down in torrents. All the spectators who might have enjoyed the spectacle of 23 cars in various states of disrepair speeding along disappeared. As we approached Estadio Azteca, the rain eased off and the cars got in line. The first 3, headed by Hanu Mikola and Gunnar Palm, the winners, were to enter first. Because we had won the ladies section, we were to go in after them. It was pure determination that we finished that rally. Well, that and my outstanding driving skills, of course.
If reading, writing, maths or technology is holding you back, free phone 1-800 20 20 65 to see how we can help.